a teacher, the teacher of teachers. He changed the world for the better and made us better creatures. Oh Allah, we've shamed ourselves, we've strayed from Al-Mu'allim. Surely we've wronged ourselves, what will we say in front of him? Mu'allim.
When we are reduced to internal blindness, then the Dajjal is ready to take us for a ride, to corrupt us. One of the most important weapons that he has for corrupting us is something called the dunya. The dunya, the wealth of this dunya. Let me explain to you his strategy. Surah Al-Kahf taught it to me. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا رَجُلَيْنِ. Tell them the story, says Surah Al-Kahf. Tell them the story about these two men. جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. Oh, one of them was rich. He had 2 gardens, and they were very fertile gardens, and they had date palms and corn fields, and the produce was tremendous. وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. And in between the 2 gardens there's a river running through, so natural irrigation. فقال لصاحبه وهو يحاوره أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا. The rich man talks to his fellow, the other man who is poor. You say, I better than you because I am rich. أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا. I have more wealth than you, and I also have more people to open my car door anytime I pull up with my car. وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. In this state of internal corruption, meaning he's rich, and he is convinced that because he is rich, he is a somebody. You heard it? Because he is rich, he is convinced that he is a somebody. And because that fellow poor, he is convinced that he is a nobody. Look at Surah Al-Kahf, explaining to you the cause of crime, one of the causes of spiraling crime. Surah Al-Kahf is teaching you what Whitehall cannot teach you. When he entered into his garden, وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ, in this state of internal corruption, قال ما أظن أن تبيد هذه. But I don't think that this will ever end. I will be forever rich. وإن رددت إلى ربي لأجدن خيرا منها منقلبا. And if ولا أظن الساعة قائمة, I don't think that this business for the last day will ever come and judgment and so on. But if it does come, and I have to go back to my Lord, He will give me something better than this. I mean, he's really living in fantasy land. His state of internal corruption has caused him to lose touch with reality. What about the poor man now? How does he respond to his poverty? قال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره. The poor man now argues with the rich man. أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا. How is it that you turn your back on He who created you from a sperm? He who fashioned you into this human being, you turn your back on Him. The poor man warns him, listen, I might be poor, but Allah can give me something better than what you have. So his poverty did not corrupt him. He eaten dal and roti, but the dal and roti was not a curse for him. No. He is content with the little that he has. It suffices, like it used to once upon a time. And he lives with this hope that if I am content with what my Lord has given to me, I work. I ain't sitting down and doing nothing. No, I work. But if I work, and this is the fruit of my honest labor, then I'm content with what my Lord has given to me. And listen, let me tell you something more. Not only can my Lord give to me something better than what you have, but He can take it away from what you have. Take away what you have. He can destroy it. So said, so done. What did Allah do? He withdrew the water, and the gardens were all ruined. No water for irrigation. When the gardens were all ruined, then the rich man is now wringing his hands in frustration. He's wringing his hands in grief and sorrow over his loss. And listen to his words. Ya laytani لَمُشْرِكْ رَبِّي أَحَدًا. Woe unto me! Why did I commit this act of shirk? The one sin that Allah will never forgive. Shirk, to worship other than Allah. Where is the shirk? He wasn't worshipping any idol. Oh yes. The shirk was that with his lips he was saying, I worship you. But with his heart, he was worshipping his wealth. How does this explain crime in Trinidad? How does this story of the Surah explain the phenomenon of spiraling crime in Trinidad? Answer: when you bring into being a society in which if you are rich, you are somebody. And if you're poor, you're nobody. Then this is what you end up with. This is what you end up with. You have it right now in Trinidad. Why? Well, if I am poor, then that is a curse upon me. Poverty is a curse. No, it is not. Didn't your grandfather teach you that sometimes when Allah wants to punish, He gives you wealth? He says in the Quran, I give them staircases of silver, and I give them roofs of silver. Rich, so they're flying high until they're ready for them. It's there in the Quran. So that wealth is a punishment. And sometimes when Allah loves you, He gives you little. And your poverty is good for you, because Allah knows that if He gave you wealth, the wealth would have corrupted you. And so that poverty is a blessing. But the minute you have a society built on this belief that if you are rich, you are somebody, and if you are poor, you are nobody, then nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to be poor. And if I cannot get out of poverty the halal way, I will do it the haram way. No matter what I have to do, I do not want to be poor. Whatever I have to do to get out of poverty, I'm going to do it. So you have this. PNM and UNC cannot solve this. But there is another reason for the escalating crime. Allah is the one who gives. He is Ar-Razaq. Ar-Razaq, the one who gives rizq. And when Allah gives, He gives to some more and He gives to others less. But then Allah takes from some and He gives to others. Allah takes from some and He gives to others. How does He take? Well, you go in the market. When you go in the market, you do business. Whenever you do business, you take a chance. Huh? Whenever you take a chance, you take a risk. Huh? When you take a risk, you could make a profit. Or you could suffer a loss. That is business, isn't it? From the time you embrace risk, now Allah can take from some and give to others. So one day for me, one day for you. So today he rich, tomorrow he poor. Today he poor, tomorrow he rich. Okay? But when you have an economy like the one you have today, because of banking and insurance, when you have an economy as you have it today, in which the rich are now permanently rich forever and ever and ever and ever, and the poor are permanently poor forever and ever and ever and ever. When wealth no longer circulates through the economy, as it is around the world today, thanks to riba, and you want to ban a man who is teaching the subject of riba, how foolish can you be? May Allah protect us from those who want to stop us from speaking, and may Allah open the eyes of those who are blind, they may see what they are not seeing. Ameen. When an economy is based on riba, then wealth will no longer circulate through the economy. And so the rich remain permanently rich and the poor remain permanently poor. I want to say to you today, if you are on minimum wage and you're sitting in this hall, you will remain on minimum wage for the rest of your life. That is the general state of affairs. Those who are trapped in minimum wage will remain there forever. When an economy is based on riba, then wealth will no longer circulate through the economy. Now the rich will remain permanently rich and the poor will remain permanently poor, and that is oppression. Use any yardstick with which to measure, that is oppression. And when the people are oppressed, they eventually respond with acts of violence. They don't care about breaking the law, because the law is protecting the state master. And so you have kidnappings. And they don't feel that they're doing something very wrong when they kidnap, because we have no other way to change a system of oppression. We are poor, we are on minimum wage, and we will remain on minimum wage forever. And so Surah Al-Kahf is explaining to us the causes of escalating crime. But then there are those who are rich, and they also commit crime. Because they want to get richer. His father owns half of downtown Port of Spain. And yet he takes a flight to London, and the police catch him with 1 kilo of cocaine. But your father don't own half of Port of Spain, man. You're done rich. You want more wealth? Yes. When a society is built on the belief that if you are rich, you are somebody, and you're poor, you're nobody, the one who is the richest of the rich, he is the most important of all. He's at the top of the ladder. And so even the rich will now enter into crime. They will pay the fellow who go and do the murder, the killing. There's the paymaster. Police will catch that one, they will catch this one. Surah Al-Kahf responds to these as well. Not only to the poor and to the rich. Surah Al-Kahf responds to those whose hearts are now so infected by the dunya. They want more and yet more of the dunya. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Tell them that this is the story of the dunya. What? That water falls from the sky. فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ. And when the water falls from the sky, the greenery emerges and the whole earth is green and flourishing. But then what happens after that? فَأَصْبَحَ هَشِيمًا تَذْرُوهُ الرِّيَاحُ. The green leaves turn to brown. Yes. Everything that you acquire of the dunya will one day turn to dust. The green leaves turn to brown, and eventually everything is blown away by the wind. Teach them the story of the dunya, says Surah Al-Kahf, and we learnt it when we were children. Do you remember? Dunya se dil lagakar, dunya se kya milega. If you give your heart to the dunya, everything you do from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you sleep in the night is, I want more of the dunya. I live for the dunya. I'll die for the dunya. Everything I do for the dunya. Dunya se kya milega. What does the dunya have to offer to you? Nothing that will remain forever. When you go down into that lonely grave, and if you've never thought before what life is in the grave, do think about it. Nobody there with you. Not your wife, not your children, not your neighbor, not your friend, nobody with you. Everybody turn around and walk away. And they leave you in the grave alone. When you're down there in the grave, you don't take anything from the dunya with you. Dunya se dil lagakar dunya se kya milega. Yade khuda ki ja tujhko khuda milega. But if you give your heart to Allah, if you give your heart to the guidance which has come from Allah, if you give your heart to the Quran like Sheikh Ali Mustafa, Maulana Siddiq Ahmad Nasir is coming a little later to introduce him. Is Maulana here yet? Not yet. To introduce him. He was 18 years of age, he was a Christian in Suriname. And you hear the story of how he became a Muslim. And then Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, invited him to come and study in Pakistan. And he arrived there in 1969. He and Maulana Siddiq Nasir were in the same class. Same class. I was a senior student to both of them. But when he arrived in 1969, he decided, I want to memorize the whole Quran. African boy from Suriname. And he says, I want to memorize the whole Quran. And guess what? He did it in 1 year. Imran Hosein didn't do it. Wafi Muhammad didn't do it. Siddiq Nasir didn't do it. But Ali Mustafa did it. Hafiz of the Quran. When he goes down in the grave, he takes the whole Quran with him in the grave. That is his companion in the grave, the whole Quran. And so if you give your heart to this dunya, everything I live for is the dunya. The dunya will leave you. وَمَا هَذِهِ حَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. This dunya and the life of this dunya is only sport and entertainment and amusement. وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. But that is the permanent life. If only they could understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ. Everything will perish and pass away. Everything. وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. And only the face of your Lord, fair and magnificent, will remain. And in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah speaks again about the end. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا. We have placed all of this in the earth to be its beauty, its ornament, in order to test you. وَإِنَّا لَجَاعِلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. But one day we reduce everything to dust. It will become a dust bowl, this earth. And so Surah Al-Kahf tells us how to get out of the situation in which we are in respect of crime. Do not give your heart to the dunya. Give your heart to Allah. But Surah Al-Kahf tells us even more. To explain the crime that we have escalating around the world. And then finally, Surah Al-Kahf tells us how to respond. Let us explain this and then we'll end, inshallah. Zulkarnain, remember last lecture? He has faith and Allah has given to him power. So he is the controlling power in the world. When power rests on the foundations of faith, this is the last lecture we have to take on the back, Gog and Magog lecture. When power rests on the foundations of faith, Surah Al-Kahf explains how is power used. Zulkarnain says, I will use my power to punish the oppressor. Or when he goes to you, you will punish him as well. So there will be harmony between this world and that. Zulkarnain says, I'll use my power to help those who have faith and whose conduct is righteous. Treat them nicely. And then Zulkarnain traveled in the opposite direction. And there he came across the people who had nothing. Nothing. Only the clothes on their backs. You have a book in front of you, the Islamic Travelogue. You will see in that part of the travelogue where I went to Bangladesh. And then in Bangladesh I traveled all the way down to the south to the sea. And when I came to the seashore, I saw the seashore full of people. They're all refugees, Muslim refugees from Burma. And they lived off the sea. They had nothing. Nothing. Zulkarnain had the compassion, the good sense, the wisdom, not to inflict any damage on these people. And then Zulkarnain traveled in the third direction, to the pass between the two mountains. And there he came across the people like couldn't understand their language. But we covered this in the last lecture already. And then these people said to him, these two people, Gog and Magog, they are committing fasad. They are corrupting our earth. This is what we have in Trinidad. This is what we are facing here today, something called fasad, the corruption of the society. Can you help us? O Zulkarnain, can you build a barrier? Can you build a barrier between us and them to protect us from them? Are you seeing now the answer? Are you understanding the answer? How to respond to a society which is plagued with violence and crime and murder? Can you see the answer? They said, can you build a barrier to protect us from them, that they cannot reach us? You see the answer now? That they cannot reach us. If you build the barrier, we will be prepared to pay. Yeah, I don't need your money. What Allah has given to you is more important, more valuable. Bring for me blocks of iron. And he built a barrier with blocks of iron. And remember, the Quran tells us that iron is a metal which did not form part of the original constitution of the earth. وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدِ, and we sent down iron. And to which Maulana Ansari responds and says this probably means that iron came down from an extraterrestrial source, like a meteorite. And so what you need to build a barrier is not something which belongs to this world. If you are to build a barrier to protect yourself from that wicked world, you need something which comes from another world to build a barrier. Are you following me? So he built the barrier. And then he put molten copper. And when he had done that, now Gog and Magog could neither penetrate nor could they scale the barrier. But then came that day when the Prophet ﷺ informed us that Allah has now brought down the barrier. Remember? He raised his hands like this. He had a dream. Said, today Allah has made a hole in the barrier. And so Gog and Magog were released in the lifetime of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. When Gog and Magog are released, the people who are going to suffer the most are who? In the prisons of Abu Ghraib, the Arab. Because the statement was, Waylul lil Arab, woe unto the Arabs. When Gog and Magog are released, they will eventually spread out in all directions. And they take control of the world, in the world order of Gog and Magog, and then they proceed to use their power to oppress. This is Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, teaching you, explaining to you the world in which you live today. Why will you not go to the Quran? Seek Allah's forgiveness for having neglected the Quran. And now go to the Quran, and the Quran might explain to you the strange world in which you live today. Power will now be used to oppress. The opposite of Zulkarnain. Power will now be used to wage war on those who follow the religious way of life, who have piety, who are righteous and honest. If he's a Hindu, he'll still wage war on him because he's a pious Hindu. If he's a Christian, he'll still wage war on him because he's a man of piety and righteousness. But the Muslim, he's the one who will face the brunt of the war. So the war on Islam which is taking place in the world today is explained in Surah Al-Kahf. And then there are those who have nothing. Nothing except the clothes on their backs. And even those who have nothing, even they, this wicked world order will attack them and take from them the little that they have. This is what is happening in Haiti today. And Haiti is around the corner, so you cannot say you did not know. Haiti is one of the poorest places on the face of the earth today. And Haiti is not poor by accident. The reason why Haiti is the poorest place in the world today is because 200 years ago, Haiti slapped them on their faces. 200 years ago, a powerful slap on their faces. They've never forgiven Haiti for that. And so for 200 years now they've been punishing Haiti, and they're still punishing Haiti. A people who have nothing, and yet you're attacking them and taking from them even the little that they have. Zulkarnain was the opposite of that. Can we recognize these Gog and Magog people? Who are they? Last month we turned to Surah Al-Anbiya, and we turned to 2 verses of Surah Al-Anbiya where Allah speaks about a town. Remember? He destroyed the town. Remember? He expelled the people of the town. Remember? And then he banned them from ever returning to reclaim that town as their own. Do you remember? And then he said that these people will return to reclaim their town when? When Gog and Magog are released. And they spread out in all directions. Then you will see this amazing spectacle of these people who were expelled from that town by Allah, banned from ever returning to reclaim the town as their own. You will see it before your eyes. You will see these people returning to reclaim that town as their own. Which town is it? وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. We said the town is Jerusalem. Remember? Sheikh Ali Mustafa agrees with me. Yes. The town is Jerusalem. And so when you see the Jews returning to reclaim the Holy Land as their own, as they have done, then the Quran is saying to you that those who have made possible the return of the Jews to the Holy Land, namely the world order which controls the world today, in which Washington is the leader, that's Gog and Magog. That's the world order of Gog and Magog. The Quran is saying that to you. So you know who you have to protect yourself from. Huh? You should be seeking to protect yourselves from them. If you will forgive me for reminding one more time, we should not be seeking to worship at the altar of a US visa. No. We should be seeking to protect ourselves from them. Now what did Maulana Fadhur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, have to say on that subject? When I was here last month, I referred to this book, Gog and Magog and the State of Israel. But I was referring to an earlier edition. And I said in my remarks that from what was written in this book, it appears clear that Maulana Ansari also held the view that the town was Jerusalem. But I went back home and I got this copy, which is from Maulana Ansari's library. I have been blessed by being given the entire library that he had. I have it with me. And this is a later edition. And I want to read to you what this man says. He begins the book by saying that the town is Jerusalem. That's the most important point he makes in the whole book. And now listen to what he says about Maulana Ansari. At the end, I must acknowledge my most sincere thanks to Maulana Fadhur Rahman Ansari, whose interpretation and explanation of the verse relating to the return of the people to the city which was destroyed, referred to in the preceding pages, inspired me to make research and to write on this subject. Now it's plain and clear. Maulana Fadl Rahman Ansari rahimahullah, he also held the view that the time was Jerusalem. And so now we know the corruption of our society, the escalating crime of our society, the murders, the anarchy, the mayhem, the kidnapping. These things are not happening by accident. This is part of the corruption of the world by God and by God. Now we know no one can solve that. No one. Now we know police reform bill or no police reform bill is going to get worse and yet worse. The Messenger of Allah said, he climbed to the roof of a house and he looked out. This is Medina. He said, I see Hajj falling on your rooftops like raindrops. I see Hajj falling on your rooftops like raindrops. So they asked, O Messenger of Allah, what is Hajj? He says, killing and slaughter, murder. And so he anticipated what we are having here today. It cannot be solved. Stop, because this is God and God. Well, then what should we do? Let us tell you that and we'll end the lecture. How do we respond to it today, which is already so dangerous, and to it tomorrow, which is going to be worse than today? What should we do? What does the Quran tell us? I leave behind me two things. So long as you hold on to them, you will never go astray. The Book of Allah and my Sunnah. It's not enough to preach and preach and preach. You heard enough lectures already. When will we put it into practice? When will we create a living model of Islam? The Quran and the Sunnah. So we can invite Port of Spain, come and see, this is Islam. The solution lies in building a barrier between you and that world of crime. That's the first solution. The second solution is that when you build that barrier, you have to build that barrier with that which comes from another world, like iron. And that which came from another world is the Quran. And he who lived the Quran, the Sunnah. That's the solution. They didn't have no other solution. You could climb the highest mountain, you will never find another solution. This is the only one. Surah Al-Kahf is telling you the solution. We have to come together, all of us. Whether you just stand up for Ta'zeem or you don't stand up for Ta'zeem is irrelevant. Don't come to me to argue on those issues, because I am not going to be a part of them. It is irrelevant. We have to come together as a people who will try to establish a society based on the Quran and the Sunnah. And when we build that community, we have to ensure that that community is disconnected from the world of crime that is escalating out there. This is the project of the Muslim village. This is going to be our subject for the next lecture, inshallah. Establishing a Muslim village in the island of Trinidad. This Muslim village comes out of Surah Al-Kahf. I say to you that the 1950s and 1960s were an exciting time to be in Trinidad. When we were little children, and Haji Zainul Khan, the president of the TIA, Jama'atul Taqwiyatul Islam, was sitting in the back there. He was already a young man. And Dr. Wahid Ali will be here with us next Sunday, inshallah. They will tell you, the 50s and the 60s were an exciting time to be a Muslim in this country. When the people of African origin were now entering into Islam. And we didn't have a parting of ways as yet. And I now say to you, that if we can establish this Muslim village in Trinidad, we'll welcome another exciting time in our history. And one more time you can go to sleep with your window open, and your wife can walk anywhere in the village, anytime, day or night, and she'll be safe. We will do in this village what the government cannot do, what NHA cannot do. We will establish a social order, a society, a community, living by the divine guidance, which will be stable, which will be healthy, which will be peaceful, and which will be free from crime. This is the challenge, and I invite you, brothers and sisters, to join with me next lecture, inshallah, when we will explain to you and present to you the project of the Muslim village in Trinidad. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.
We once had a teacher, the teacher of teachers. He changed the world for the better and made us better creatures. Oh Allah, we've shamed ourselves, we've strayed from Al-Mu'allim. Surely we've wronged ourselves, what will we say in front of him? Mu'allim, he was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Muhammad, mercy upon mankind. He was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Muhammad, mercy upon mankind. Teacher of all mankind. أبا القاسم يا حبيبي يا محمد يا شفيعي يا محمد خير خلق الله محمد يا مصطفى يا إمام المرسلين يا مصطفى يا شفيع العالمين يا مصطفى يا إمام المرسلين يا مصطفى يا شفيع العالمين يا مصطفى يا إمام المرسلين يا مصطفى يا شفيع العالمين. He prayed while others slept, while others ate, he'd fast. While they would laugh, he wept until he breathed his last. His only wish was for us to be among the ones who prosper. Ya Mu'allim, peace be upon you, truly you are our teacher. Mu'allim.